Okay, so the sun is setting and I'm running out of light, so I'm hoping I can get this all recorded before it gets too dark. So recently I posted some short videos, reels on all the other platforms, Instagram, also YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, about how I built the wrong life and why I chose to close my practice 7 years ago. And after making those videos, I was thinking, oh, people are probably wondering, like, so what have you been doing? Like, why is it taking you so long to, like, I don't know, work out your life, I guess. So I wanted to start to answer that question. Now, before I get to that, I did just want to interrupt this here so I can post those reels within the video here so it makes sense for people who are seeing it later, for those who can't easily scroll back through my social media because I tend to post a lot. So here are the two reels that I'm referring to. 7 years ago, I left my career as a mental health counselor. I spent years building a life that looked responsible and successful, but it wasn't actually aligned with what I wanted and who I actually am. If you've seen my millennial job crisis video, you'll know that I still have some feelings about that chapter of my life. I spent years getting degrees, checking all the boxes, working hard, and trying to build a stable future. But looking back, I was so focused on taking care of everyone else and achieving the next thing that I wasn't spending much time asking myself what I actually wanted. What brought me joy? What made me feel alive? And what kind of life did I want to wake up to every day? After leaving that career, I found myself in a strange place. I knew what I didn't want anymore, but I wasn't completely sure of what I did want or if it was still possible for me. And over the last few years, I've slowly started building my life around the things that matter most to me. Things like dance, health, beauty, wellness, friendships, and having time and energy to enjoy them. This is my 4th year dancing on teams, and I've been attending more dance events post-pandemic. Dancing more has brought so much more joy back into my life. I've started prioritizing things like mobility, exercises, taking care of my skin and my hair, and generally treating myself like someone worth investing in. And that's why you've been seeing more of that type of content from me lately. What's been surprising is that some of the products and programs I'm genuinely using have started generating affiliate income for me. And for the first time, I wasn't just working toward my own goals, I was getting paid while pursuing things that were already improving my life. And while I'm still figuring out what this next chapter looks like, I know that success isn't just about achievement. It's also about building a life that I actually enjoy living. And in the next video, I'll take you back to one of the most disillusioning moments of my career and how it became a turning point. Have you ever had a moment where your entire life cracked open? Not because something terrible happened, but because you realized that the life you'd built wasn't the life you wanted. Years ago, I was a mental health counselor, and from the outside, it looked like I was doing everything right. I had the degrees, I had the career, I was helping people, but I was also miserable and exhausted most of the time. And that unhappiness wasn't staying neatly contained inside my workday. It was affecting the rest of my life too. So I kept looking for answers. In 2017, I attended the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference, where hundreds of other therapists were gathering to learn from leaders in the field. And out of all the sessions, the one that I was most interested in was about why counseling isn't sexy and how psychics were making a lot more money than therapists with advanced degrees. I remember being fascinated by that conversation. I had spent years getting the degrees, doing everything I was told would lead to a successful career, yet there I was, sitting in a room thinking about psychics and tarot card readings. About a year later, my sister invited me to a weekend-long personal development seminar, and one of the exercises was about dreaming. Not goal setting, not achievement, dreaming. And I realized something that completely stopped me in my tracks and was heartbreaking. I didn't know what I truly wanted, and honestly was afraid to want what I wanted after years of being told that my way, my thoughts, my ideas were not correct or would not work out. I had spent so many years focused on taking care of other people, achieving the next thing, checking the next box, and being responsible that I had lost touch with myself. What did I want? What brought me joy? What kind of life did I actually want to create? I didn't know, and that realization was devastating. People don't talk enough about how painful disillusionment can be. When a belief you've built your life around starts to fall apart, it can feel like everything is burning down and like you're being reduced to ash. But sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. Sometimes the old version of your life has to crack open before something new can emerge. And that weekend wasn't the moment I figured everything out. It was the moment that I realized I needed to start asking different questions. And it was the beginning of finding my way back to myself, learning to trust my own voice, and making what I want for my life far more important than what anybody else thought or expected. That was the start of my real transformation. And by 2019, I finally summoned the courage to close my private practice. If this resonated with you, I invite you to follow along for the journey. So this was in 2019 when I was deciding to close my practice. And my intention was that I would have a quick career transition. Like, I knew I was miserable in my counseling practice. I kept trying for years to make it fit, make it work, be happy. And it just wasn't working. And I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what's next, but I know I can't do this. So I closed my practice without having everything figured out yet. I did enroll in a yoga teacher training before I closed my practice and had started doing that. And then got severe vertigo and tinnitus and acid reflux and a host of digestive issues. So what I thought was going to be like a quick little transition became a health crisis. Okay. So it was awful. I couldn't finish the teacher training program. I was dizzy all the time and very easily triggered into dizziness. Like, any movement of my head would trigger it. Any additional stress would trigger it. I felt unsafe to drive a lot of times. And I remember, like, when I would go out, like, let's say I'd go to a restaurant, I would only sit in a booth. I wouldn't sit in bar stools. And if I had to sit in a chair, like, most chairs at restaurants don't have armrests. Can you sit, please? Thank you. Sorry about that. He likes to go right up to the window and then he knocks the tripod, and I don't want him to do that. Please stay. How about you lay down, actually? Lay down. Okay, he wants to sit. He's ignoring me. Okay, so most chairs don't have armrests at restaurants. So I would be afraid to sit in a chair that didn't have an armrest, like on an aisle, because I was afraid I was going to be dizzy and fall out of the chair. So I would sit next to the wall, and then somebody would sit next to me. So I'd be between the wall and a person. So I'd either fall on a person or I'd fall on the wall. So yeah, that was just really hard. I also had a lot of neck issues. I developed hip impingement syndrome because I was in bed a lot. I wasn't moving very much. It was really hard for me to eat food. I became intolerant / allergic to most foods. I would be in pain every time after I ate. I slept sitting up for at least 2 years because it was too painful to lay down flat. And then I had to constantly be negotiating, well, if I eat this food, it'll help towards my calories. If I tried to eat fat, for example, like an avocado or something. Great, I'm getting micronutrients, I'm getting more fat, but that would also trigger acid reflux. So I could only tolerate a quarter of an avocado at a time. So I ended up losing a lot of weight. I had so much chronic fatigue. And it was just a really miserable way to be experiencing life with all these health conditions. And then in 2020, the pandemic started and I got shingles. So, like all of the like stress illnesses, basically, like a smorgasbord of stress related illnesses and other things too. Like I know like the postural issues contributed to the vertigo. Um, I found out later that I did have H. pylori. I was initially tested for H. pylori when I got acid reflux, but it was negative. But then a couple years later, I saw a naturopath, and she did a more comprehensive test, which did show that I did have H. pylori and a candida infection. So something that, well, I knew intellectually that it's very hard to self-actualize when you're ill, when your foundation is not solid. I knew that intellectually, but I definitely experienced it over those 4 years. So if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's essentially a pyramid, and there's like different sections of the pyramid. And so the base is your foundation. So do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have shelter? Do you have like health and well-being? And then it goes up from there. Like then you have social needs, belonging needs, etc. And self-actualization is at the top. I was also financially stressed at that time. And after becoming violently dizzy and not able to finish my yoga teacher training, then I didn't have a plan to make new income. And I was also having a really hard time finding a job. Like no one would hire me. I was applying everywhere and wasn't hearing anything back. So if you're going through something like this, if you are having chronic health issues, chronic fatigue, I totally get it. And I guess I just want to validate and say that, like, no, you're not crazy. And it is really hard to try to work on improving all these other areas of your life when so much of your energy is spent just trying to get through the day, when your body is focusing all of its resources on trying to heal. And it feels like you're not healing. Like as years go by, it just feels like nothing's working, nothing's happening. And I remember so many times where I would just like give up essentially. Like, I don't know what else to do. I'm trying everything. I feel horrible. And I would just be like basically sobbing on the floor, feeling like I have no control over my life and like nothing I do works. So looking back, it was definitely like a dark night of the soul experience. If you're not familiar with that, it's part of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is essentially the plot line, storyline of almost all stories, movies, books, etc. So the hero of the journey or of the story has to go through something awful, some difficulty that they have to overcome to have the happy ever after, to, you know, have love, have whatever it is. So if we're thinking of like storybooks, you know, the prince had to fight the dragon to find his true love. And the princess had to be trapped in a tower before she could, you know, meet her prince. So they both struggled and had like difficulties that they had to endure until they got to the end. After all these times of feeling like I quit, I give up, nothing's working, then after grieving, crying on the floor, then maybe getting a better night's rest, then I would have more energy of like, okay, I can try again. And by about 2021, I was able to eat more food, more comfortably. So then I started working with a personal trainer to help me to gain more weight, to have like a meal plan, be exercising, working on building more muscle back as well. And that did help. That made a huge improvement actually compared to where I was. And then I also worked with a naturopathic doctor to help heal those food intolerance and residual like digestive issues that still weren't fully resolved. Like it was better, but those problems were still there. They just weren't as acute as before. And the vertigo had started to slowly fade over time as I, worked on de-stressing and working on my posture and I guess other things, becoming more, I said I guess twice. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to cut it. But things becoming slowly more stable, I guess, or me just coping better. I don't know. I feel like it was a mix because it was such a stressful time. So that was the first 4 years, was largely due to chronic health issues, being exhausted all the time, and essentially trying to survive like multiple crises at once. Like it wasn't just one. Like, yes, it was like an identity career crisis. Another thing too, I had started to experiment with being vegan in 2016. So I think that was another piece too. And so by 2019, I was sure that I was going to do it because in those years before, I kind of like went back and forth. And I got a lot of pushback from my friends and family, very aggressively, that like, you're wrong, this is horrible for you, you're going to harm yourself, you're going to get sick, all the things. And so that was very isolating too. So I had like a career identity crisis. Then I was like isolated from most of my friends and family for my choice to be vegan. Then I also was financially stressed. No one was hiring me. I was physically ill. Kind of like everything in my life that was once stable was falling apart. So that's kind of why I started that earlier reel of like, have you ever had your life crack open, essentially? Because that's what it felt like was happening for me. So it definitely was like a rough ending of a chapter of my life, I guess. Restructuring, reordering, shedding of what was. And that still is not the end of the story. It didn't end there. But for now, that's all I'm going to focus on, was just the health aspect. So next time I will either share more of what happened in the 3 years after that, or maybe I might go into some tea about why I left counseling. If you have a preference, let me know. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait and see. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you could like, subscribe, share, comments, or donate to my Patreon. There should be a link below. Any of those would be so great. Anything you can do to support the channel, because I would really love to grow it. And the more you interact with this content, the more likely other people are going to see it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.